All right, Mike McGoldrick, welcome to the Counseling and Functional Fitness Podcast. And thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Of course, Adam. Glad to be here, man. Thanks for reaching out. It was nice to meet you at Syndicate and, make this connection. I know that I kept having to prolong our meeting and chat because the summer just kept having, new things pop up, but I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Yeah, and it was awesome that it was a good reason to postpone that you competed at the games. So that's
Yeah, for
cool.
sure. Yeah.
Well, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do as a coach.
Okay. Yeah. Currently, I am a coach for Training Think Tank. I coach individual clients here. I've been here since 2016, coaching clients. I help run one of our online programs, TTT Compete, and I'm a director of our TTT affiliate product, which will be launching soon. And for fun, I train as an athlete still on a team. I've been on a team the last 2 years, and I've done team with Training Think Tank for I think 4 years now. I'm married. I have a wife. We've been married for almost 8 years. Whoops. And we have a son, Liam. He's almost 3 years old, and we have another child on the way as well. So full plate, but lots of really awesome things in my life.
Yeah, very full. What's your favorite thing about coaching at Training Think Tank?
I mean, one of the main reasons that brought me here is the collection of coaches. I think, you've always heard people talk about you become the average of the people that you're around. And I think I had an opportunity to move here and be surrounded by coaches that are like-minded, that are very passionate about what they do, that want to do the right thing constantly, that aren't afraid to put in a lot of work. And I think that this is a place too that is like open to challenge. So we openly challenge each other in constructive ways. And that's just like a great recipe for growth and success. So I feel like that's easily one of my favorite parts, is that we've got just really good, wholehearted coaches that are here wanting to do the absolute best they can and really care about what they do.
Yeah, and something that I really admire about you all at Training Think Tank is it seems that you take a very intelligent and thoughtful approach to both coaching and education.
Yeah, I mean, we want to create the best out there, and we feel like with the team of coaches that we have, we can do that, and we are doing that. I think, it's not an elitist mindset. It's more about like, all right, like if it can be done better, then we like have to put our heads together and figure that out, and like constantly testing and changing and being okay with adapting to, like the sport is like our niche. The sport of CrossFit is where we thrive the most, but we have coaches from all different backgrounds. So we're constantly trying to improve systems to help athletes outside of that, as well as getting everyone better that's doing the sport, that's involved with us. That's, we have a hand in coaching.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's a really special environment to be in, where you can grow to become closer to you can work toward your full potential and also push and challenge each other in ways that you can all make that happen together.
Yeah. I mean, it's accountability, right? Like, it's an honest environment, and someone's not pulling weight on something, or if, maybe quality on something drops, like there's conversations about it. And it's not like, like cutthroat in a way, but it's more like, hey, like, I think that this progression could be better. Like, let's try and update this, or, all right, these are a little dated. It's not really used or relevant in the season anymore. So like, we need to upgrade this, even though it's going to be a bit of work. Like, let's get after it.
So what mental skills do you help your athletes to develop in order to perform at their best?
I think starting with on the individual side. So I've been doing individual coaching since 2014. And I mean, I've learned a lot since then. Like I've learned a lot about, different clients and how they react to certain styles of coaching, but more so what kind of coach that I am. And I think that once I established that and figured that out, I was able to be more efficient with how I'm challenging people and putting pressure on people and setting expectations. So I think number one is like, when I work with someone, I want to take the time. It's not a 1 hour call that you figure all this stuff out. I want to take the time to have multiple calls and conversations and pay attention and help them understand it's a patient process, that we need to take care of the things that are low hanging fruit that aren't optimizing, your performance. So some people come to me because they're just 100%, bought into or motivated to just perform better, and they're not super concerned with lifestyle concerns or wanting deep conversations outside of that. And you have to recognize that and pay attention to that. And so I'll put most of the thought into, all right, let's make the program design better. Let's make sure that nutrition's dialed, that type of stuff, from a more like competitive athlete mindset. And then some athletes come to me and they just need help with, organizing life. And you kind of get pulled into more of like a lifestyle coach role. And I enjoy that sometimes. And that's not like me saying like I'm a therapist or a lifestyle coach, and I would never like label myself as that. I'm just a coach. But those things are important, and you have to learn about that, and you have to help them understand like the lack of organization in your life in these certain areas highly impacts your performance in the gym. So if I see those things when I run, an initial assessment, or if I start to learn more about this person, when I see consistent bad patterns or bad habits showing up, like these are the things that we have to control first before we're going to put a lot of work into training harder and doing harder workouts and that type of stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting, all those lifestyle things, and how of course, the best CrossFit athletes are the most well-rounded, and not being maybe the best at any one thing, but being as great as possible at all of those things. And for the everyday athlete too, that all those lifestyle factors affect our performance in the gym, but also our performance in our lives. And with functional fitness, especially being something that we're not just training to get better in the gym, but also to thrive in our everyday lives.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a fun sport. It's very challenging though, and it definitely weeds out a certain type of personality, right? Like it attracts someone who's not afraid of challenge. But
Mm.
I think sometimes people get into it with pressures, external pressures of why they want to do it. And when you get really challenged and have to make severe changes in your life to meet the expectations that are required or meet the demands that are required to perform higher in the sport, they second guess why they did it. They have second thoughts. And I think it's good to expose that, because again, like, if you're training to compete in the sport of CrossFit, or just perform it on a daily basis, like it's hard, it's not comfortable, and it's not easy. So like you have to have a really good reason why you're doing it. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think just really digging down and always asking the question and making sure that they're on a strong foundation of why they're doing it's important. And I think too, like the conversations you have with adults versus, youth athletes is very different. Youth athletes, they're just under very different circumstances, and I have a different set of expectations for them versus adults. I have a little more patience and empathy, even though they come to me sometimes and want to be treated like that they're a youth athlete. And I'm like, look, like it's not the same. I know that you want me to throw all this hard stuff at you and yell at you like a football coach, but like that's not going to help you right now. Like
Mhm.
you have to give yourself some patience and space and understand that like your situation's a little more delicate than someone who has zero responsibilities and can only focus on performance in the gym, and then can go home and have mom and dad cook food for them and they can just go to sleep.
Mhm.
So like, like those circumstances are very different.
Yeah. Yeah, and different athletes, of course, requiring different kind of styles of coaching. And I was thinking about this morning, actually, how coaching athletes is a creative act of helping, and it's a helping profession. It's a different way to look at it, but at at the same time. And I've I've heard you all talk quite a bit about this in training think tank podcasts and things like that. But you are helping athletes become the athlete they want to be, but at the same time, that has a lot of crossover into becoming the kind of person they want to be, I'm sure. And also with, like I said, different athletes require different, or have different needs maybe from their coach, and some can be more challenging and some can be more nurturing. And I think learning as a coach, for me, learning as a therapist how a specific client is going to respond best, and being as agile as I can with that in my work with my therapy clients. And I'm sure that's similar with you too, taking maybe especially as a coach more than one role with athletes. I mean, they're people and they have life concerns.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big there's conflicting interests in the coaching industry on what type of role you should have. Like some feel like you should be very separate and remove emotion when you coach an athlete. Some are completely open to being engaged and, being having a friendship support role. I think it just depends on one, like what you want to do as a coach and what you truly believe. You don't have to have someone else tell you how to do that.
Mhm.
You'll figure it out along the way. You'll either make mistakes or you won't. You'll learn from it or you won't. But I think that yeah, I mean, if you're an aspiring coach or wanting to continue to improve as a coach, I think that you have to be the one to make that decision, and you can't decide, or you can't let what others decide dictate how you should create the roles that you're playing in your athletes' lives.
Mhm. Yeah, and
I've
I think
definitely made mistakes in the past where I've been too much of a friendship support role and not hard enough and honest enough. And then there's been times where I've been maybe too cold and too disconnected because I was overly concerned about protecting myself. And
mm,
I think that I've just found a balance along the way. And I mean, that's just the risk sometimes of being emotionally engaged with someone is sometimes it takes you being vulnerable, and that's a risk. And sometimes you get hurt in the process too. And like when I say hurt, I don't mean like physically hurt, but I mean like you're dealing with some of their emotional baggage and you're engaged with it, and sometimes they get unhappy with you and you get fired. Like it's just part of the process, and it's not an easy line of work always, but I mean, it'll be tested along the way how much you really love it, because that stuff doesn't stop you from wanting to continue to do it.
mhm. And I think a part of what you said, talking about finding your, or really your personality does show as a coach. And I think an important part of coaching, and for me being a therapist, is letting my personality flow into my work and really creating my style. And I think that's very true for coaching too. Every coach has a different style, and for some athletes that'll work great, and for others a different coach might be better for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great part of training think tank is we have multiple personalities here on site that are different styles of coaches. So when someone reaches out and they want to work with a coach, we try to get to know them a little bit, kind of like a pre-screening or vetting process to see who would they be best fit with. And um, yeah, I mean, it's helpful because we have, a wide variety of personalities that work together.
Mhm.
So, I mean, another thing too, like, you asked about mental skills to help athletes, like the mental game and mindset and all those like big, fancy terms thrown around. I think it's helpful and it's a big part of being a better competitor. Some athletes just have it. Like just like they're blessed with physical talent, like some are just mentally tough, and not like in a, like a sadistic kind of way, like where they're willing to kill themselves all the time. But I mean, like they're very resilient to failure. They're positively reactive when things out of their control happen. And I think that sometimes that just comes naturally to others, and sometimes you have to coach someone to be better at those things. And I expect my athletes, when they say they want to get better at these things, just as much as I would expect them to put hours in the gym doing rowing intervals or strength intervals, like putting in effort and work to get better at a physical element. I expect them to put in the same amount of effort on the mental side of it. So I expect them to do certain reading
Mhm.
to improve those things. So I have a lot of different book recommendations that I'll give to athletes that have certain issues with being tougher, understanding toughness, being too tough. Like
Mhm.
those all matter. So yeah, I mean, I definitely from the emotional side as well, I expect you to put in the same amount of effort.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's important to have those expectations for your athletes too.
Yeah, I mean, athletes want to be challenged,
Mhm.
and even if you get pushed back on the front end as a coach, it's like stick to it. Like you're here to help them, and you're here to push them out of their comfort zone, and it's not always going to be easy. They're not always going to be like, yes, absolutely, whatever you say. So I think like have a reason why you're doing it. Help
Mhm.
them explain that like you do this, it's going to help you get better. Like I feel very confident in that, so I need you to trust me and put the time and effort into it.
Mhm.
So, it's helpful.
How do you help your athletes overcome and work through adversity and difficulty in both training and competition?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I lean on them to take responsibility. I've in the past I've made mistakes of carrying the burden for every failure,
Mm,
and that's exhausting on a coach. Always thinking that you're the reason why they didn't succeed. So I think number one is like helping them take responsibility, and then sure, if you mess up as a coach and had them unprepared going into a competition or were being neglectful, like you need to own up to that. But majority of the time, like the athlete has to take responsibility for it, because if they do not, they have no way of knowing or learning on how to improve that themselves, because eventually they're going to be tested and challenged in that way, where they have to be the one making the decisions, whether it be on the competition floor or whatever their sport of interest is that they're doing. They have to be the ones that take responsibility and ownership, because again, ultimately they're the one making the decisions. You're not always going to be there. You may not coach them forever, or you may not be present at their time of competition. So I think when something goes wrong in training, you need to pay attention why. You need to figure out, like, okay, this is an opportunity for you to be constructive on your reflection and think, what could I have done? What was in my control to improve this? And then as a coach, you need to analyze that and give them feedback on it and say, yes, I agree. Or, you know what? That wasn't all you. Maybe we need these better progressions as a result. And this really just helps them feel like they're improving through it, instead of just they failed, they can't get better, and now I'm just I'm not encouraged anymore.
mhm. And it looks like Zoom is giving us a time limit of about 9 more minutes. So didn't expect that, but we'll make the best use of the time as we can.
Okay.
What what are some of the character traits that have helped you become a great coach and athlete?
Hmm. A couple of them. I think going back to this, learning more about myself as a coach, and you can't know these things when you first start coaching right away. You start to learn this and develop this over time. But I think I've learned over time that winning is not my main motivator. So what I mean by that is, it's not the number one thing that drives me to be successful. I want to do my absolute best, and I want to help my clients be at their absolute best. And for some, winning is their main motivator, but it's not always mine. And I think once I kind of learned that and accepted that, it stopped putting me in positions and creating pressure where I was making decisions that were kind of out of my element, right? Like, um, not saying that I'm not competitive. I'm highly competitive. I've been at the highest level in the sport multiple times, but I feel like I've done it in a different way. I've done it in a way that helps me balance multiple self concepts in life, right? It's also very important to me to be present as a husband. It's also very important to me to be present as a father, to be present as a coach. So I've been down the route of focusing on individual only performance, and I felt very empty and imbalanced in life. And I think once I learned how to kind of balance those multiple concepts, the self concept, I was able to kind of thrive better in multiple areas. And I think that just like it's just a personality change. So I think that's kind of like a very broad trait. It's not like effort. Effort did it for me.
Right.
It's just learning about balance and kind of you know going with the flow as I've changed as a person through different seasons in life, and being able to understand what it is that truly does fulfill me and motivates me, rather than finding other people's motivations and trying to latch onto those and use those as my main drive, because that just, again, like you end up making like wrong decisions and communicating in a way that doesn't sound like you genuinely. So I think that's one. I would say another is willingness to try often. People want to be successful the first time they do something, and if they don't get it right that first time, they just don't want to do it again.
Mm,
And I think being good at anything in life requires a lot of um, you have to try often. You
mm,
have to be willing to fail, and you have to try many times. And I think being at a high level in sport means you're going to screw up a lot in the process. You're going to do a lot of qualifiers that had really poor workout selection, and you're going to do worse than you might have expected. You're going to go to competitions. You're going to have bad judges, and you're going to have all these things out of your control happen very often. But the more you keep showing up and keep doing it over and over and over, and having that willingness to try often, you're going to increase your chances of success, and you're going to get opportunities like we talked about, where
mhm,
I've competed for over a decade in this sport, And the last big lift I've ever hit was at the CrossFit Games doing a split jerk in front of the crowd. And I was thinking to myself in that moment, like, I've tried, gone to so many competitions that have had lots of unfulfilling results. And these opportunities would not have presented themselves had I not just kind of kept showing up and putting in the work and allowing myself to be in this state to try again. And so you get that reward on occasion. So I think you just got to keep trying.
Yeah, and those are powerful things, both putting effort in the right place and trying often, even if the first time doesn't go like
Yeah,
you planned. I mean, it takes time to master different crafts.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the last would be surrounding yourself with great people that that push you out of your comfort zone and challenge you. And I talked about that, with being here at Training Think Tank. Like, I'm so grateful for all the coaches here. On a daily basis, I'm learning from them. I'm being humbled, and it's not always comfortable, but it's just it's a good decision to make if you really want to thrive as a person and grow as a human. I think be real with who you're around and have a list of things that you want to be better at, and are the people around you helping you do that? Are they enabling, in a negative way, or are they promoting good habits and helping you, or challenge you and helping you grow? And I think just be real with that and make the decision, be motivated to make the decision, and courageous to do it if you have to make a change.
Yeah, man, I love that. That is really powerful. And with our time coming up on Zoom, I think that'll be a good place to wrap up. So maybe we can do part two of Mike McGoldrick another time. Thank you for coming on, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, of course. Yeah. Lots more to share, but I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mike.